to be educated, but I'm so frustrated.
Hey, I know y'all having some fun because I sure am. I'm looking at some of the comments and you got a lot to say. Keep on talking. I like that, man. A lot of conversation going on. Hey, first I want to thank all of the subscribers and the members on this channel who keep on supporting the channel. Hey, and feel free to support it if you like what I'm doing here, because it takes a lot of work and I can sure use some of your help. So don't hesitate to join on board. You know what I'm saying? Okay. What I'm going to get into tonight, man, is special to me, man. I tell you, the 80s were big time for me. I was a young man learning how to be a grown man and stuff like that. The 1980s, and especially 1986, that was the best year of my life. When I think of my whole life, that was the time I was furthering my education at BCU. And man, those were some great days, man. The music was great, Anita Baker. And there was one group that was hot as heck, and that was the SOS band with all the hits that they had. And that's what we're going to get into tonight. They had a fantastic career and we're going to talk about it. So hang around to the end.
Take your time, do it right. Man, I remember that thing like it was yesterday. Shoot, I know some top 40 bands that are still playing and featuring it in their shows. Hey, when you got a hot song and a hot band, your music never gets old. And I want to get into these boys and girls from the state of Georgia who rocked that song and a whole lot of others, basically becoming the soundtrack of the mid-80s.
Let's do it.
This music trip starts down in Atlanta, Georgia, 1977. Before the lights, before the charts, before the world knew their name, there was a band grinding it out in a spot called the Regal Room. These guys were kind of the house band here. They were raw, tight, and serious about their craft. Back then, they weren't even called the SOS band. They went by the Sounds of Santa Monica, a name inspired by a gig they played out in California that left a big mark on them. The group started as a 6-piece road unit, the one you see here, featuring the original grooves of Reginald Ward on guitar and Greg Clark on bass. Now, this wasn't any kind of group thrown together here. This was a self-contained unit. But by the time they hit the studio, the lineup had shifted to the classic 7 that would change everything. Mary Davis on lead vocals, Jason Bryant on keyboards, Billy Ellis and Willie Killebrew on horns, Bruno Speight on guitar, John Simpson on bass, and James Earl Jones III on drums. Everybody brought something different to the table, some gospel, jazz, rock, soul. And when all of that collided on one stage, it created a sound that people felt before they even understood it. The turning point came when their manager, Bunny Jackson Ransom, decided to make a move. She sent a demo tape straight to Clarence Avant, the man widely known as the godfather of black music. Avant heard something special, but he wanted them sharpened. So he paired them with producer Sagidi Abdullah, and right away, Sagidi had a question. Why the heck is a band from Atlanta named after a California city? The answer was simple. They liked the name, and they were sometimes calling it SOS for short. But Sagidi wasn't buying it, and had a vision bigger than that.
Sagidi was that guy, and still is important to the history of the SOS band and where we are. Sagidi, he was the guy that Jam and Lewis studied.
He rebranded them, gave them a name that sounded like Purpose, the SOS band, but scrapped the Santa Monica stuff. And we're not talking about the signal of distress signal they invented back in 1906. They were using it for the Sounds of Success. And now signed to Taboo Records, they were about to get it on March 18, 1980. Man, oh man, that's when everything changed. Junebug, that record hit with some funk snap to it. That lead guitar riff, the clavinet licks, and that bass line, people, you were about to jam or get run over on the dance floor.
You know you ought to slow down. You've been working.
It was kind of telling people to slow down and to move with intention. I get it, but that was kind of hard to do when you were out there juking your butt off.
Baby, we can do it. Take the time, do it right. We can do it.
But the world responded, and in big fashion. Family, did you know that that joint sold over 2 million copies, sat 5 straight weeks at #1 on the R&B charts, and crossed over to #3 on the pop charts too? That ain't no luck, man. That is impact, with the right song at the right time. And I know a few HBCU marching bands that would tell you to not sleep on that SOS tune right there. And that debut album went gold. And just like that, they were on a global stage, touring, building a fan base, and even adding another key piece to the group. Yeah, now, Abdul Ra'oof came in during their touring, bringing trumpet, percussion, and cool vocals into the mix. So then they came back in 1981 with their second album called Simply 2. It performed well, but not at the level of that first explosion. And that is where most groups start to fade. But not the SOS band. They weren't going to let the train stop rolling just yet. Therefore, by 1982, they were about to connect with producer Leon Silvers III. And through that connection, two other names entered the picture too, that would change everything. Old Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis out of Minneapolis. Yep, those guys, but they were not so big at that point, just kind of coming out of the Morris Day and the Time Band thing to getting into producing for others. Most of the album was produced by Leon Silvers III, Ricky Silvers, and Gene Dozier, so at first, Jam and Lewis just gave them a song called High Hopes. Man, it did decent and all, but what it really did was open up a door. But by 1983, you betcha that door was wide open. Jam and Lewis produced the album On the Rise, and this is where the whole SOS band sound shifted. This is where they blended their live band roots with something futuristic, something electronic. The Roland TR 808 drum machine stepped into the picture, and that machine did not just add rhythm, it reshaped the entire feel of their music. That drum machine bounce was in the song Just Be Good to Me.
Care what you do to them. Just be good to me.
And that track climbed to number 2 on the R&B charts, becoming the perfect blueprint now, not just for them, but also for modern R&B, and was a foundational precursor to New Jack Swing. Let me hit you with this right quick. Remember the band Loose Ends?
I've been waiting while you've been living.
Well, them and their producer, Nick Martinelli, were actually accused of biting this specific Jam and Lewis drum beat style on their hits like Hanging on a String and Slow Down. Inspiration or copy? Say what you want. With Jam and Lewis, this is where it started to take form. But it's also one of those moments in music history that sounds almost unreal. In '83, when Jam and Lewis were deep in the lab with the SOS band in Atlanta, finishing Just Be Good to Me, a freak blizzard slammed the city and the airport shut down. Jam and Lewis was stranded, and they missed a flight to San Antonio for a tour date with their boss. That was none other than Prince on his 1999 tour. And that cat did not play about professionalism or side hustles. When he found out they were moonlighting as producers instead of showing up for a show, he ended up firing them. But now, what looked like a devastating setback turned into the ultimate pivot, because for the first time, Jam and Lewis were free from Prince's shadow. They now locked in even harder with the SOS band and never looked back. This thing with the SOS band wasn't just a collaboration anymore, it was a takeover of their sound. So Jam and Lewis spent the next 3 years refining that smooth, electronically tight sound, giving us Tell Me If You Still Care, a standout track on the 1983 album On the Rise. Then came Just the Way You Like It, the title track of the SOS band's 5th studio album released in 1984. But by 1986, they reached another peak with the album Sands of Time. Man, this project featured what many fans consider their ultimate masterpiece.
Oh, baby, you're the finest one for me.
Yes, sir, the finest. It was a smooth, mid-tempo track featuring a guest vocal from Alexander O'Neal alongside Mary Davis that became a global smash, proving that the SOS band and the Jam and Lewis production team were the undisputed heavyweight champions of R&B. The SOS band was smoking, and Jam and Lewis had become the biggest producers at the time, doing double duty with Janet Jackson's Control album. But man, easy come, easy go. Success always comes with downers too. Just that quick, in '86, Mary Davis decided she'd seen enough. After 6 albums and nearly a decade of constant touring, the breakneck pace finally caught up to her. She later recalled, "I couldn't maintain the rigorous schedule. I had to take a break. It was a massive blow to the band's momentum, but the train didn't stop." They stayed active, gained more members. They even contributed the song It's Time to Move to the Police Academy 4 soundtrack in '87. But the landscape was shifting. There was no more Jam and Lewis. Still on their longtime label Taboo Records, the band began to reinvent itself. They brought in new vocalists, Chandra Corelli and Freddie Grace, and started grinding on the album Diamonds in the Raw with a revolving door of producers like Ebon Kelly and their original mentor, Sigidi. Meanwhile, during Mary Davis's recovery period, she decided to pursue a solo career, something she had always wanted to do. Her initial solo single, released on Taboo Records in 1987, was Steppin' Out. It was a routine and largely unmemorable slab of heavy electro-funk, co-produced by the singer Howie Rice. It proved profoundly disappointing to a lot of people, and to make matters worse, her debut album Separate Ways, produced by L.A. Reid and Babyface, man, that thing didn't get put together until 1990, and by that time Mary's career had lost crucial momentum. But the band she left behind was fighting for its life. They were dealing with a lot of ups and downs, but the biggest tragedy was about to strike right in the middle of those latest recording sessions. The band suffered a deep loss with the passing of founding member Billy Ellis. He died during the production of the Diamonds in the Raw album, which was eventually released in late '89. The album peaked at number 43 on the Billboard R&B albums chart, but did not reach the gold status of their previous Jam and Lewis collaborations. Yet it still produced a significant hit single, I'm Still Missing Your Love. Yeah, guys, but losing Billy Ellis, who was considered the father in the S.O.S. band, hit them hard, yet they had to keep on moving forward, with Billy only in their memory. They tried to stay strong and eventually moved into a new era, with Arista Records taking over their distribution, releasing the album One of Many Nights in September 1991. That album failed to even chart anywhere, but the song Sometimes I Wonder peaked at number 12 on the Billboard Hot R&B Singles chart, which was a significant drop from their previous gold-certified records in the past. But the industry was changing fast. Hip-hop was rising, New Jack Swing was taking over, and the group was now caught up trying to compete with the new school. By this time, the vocal front had shifted again. Freddie Grace had moved on, leaving Chandra Corelli as the sole female lead. And the polished R&B sound they helped define was no longer the center of attention. On top of that, they dealt with label issues that even made their music hard to find on shelves. That kind of pressure from every direction caused several original members to step aside. Usually, this is where a band's story ends, but not this one. In August 1994, something powerful happened. Mary Davis came back. Along with Abdul Ra'oof and Jason Bryant, they rebuilt the core of what made the band special in the first place. From there, they stepped into a new role, not just hitmakers, but legacy carriers. They toured the world for decades, performing for crowds that didn't just like the music, they lived it. The industry took notice too. They were honored by the city of Atlanta in 2018 and paid a massive tribute to Jam and Lewis at the Soul Train Legend Awards in 2019. That kind of recognition doesn't come from hype, it comes from impact. But in late 2020, tragedy struck again when Mary Davis suffered a stroke. It was a serious moment that eventually forced her to retire from full-time touring in 2021. Once again, the band faced a choice. Do we stop or do we continue? Abdul Ra'oof chose to continue. He led the search for new voices to carry the torch. And by 2022, Marlene Themis and Kayla Cox stepped in with Mary Davis herself, giving them her personal stamp of approval. That matters because it connects the past to the present in a real way. Now, as of 2026, the S.O.S. band is still active, still touring, and still bringing that same energy to stages across the country. When you step back and look at this journey, it's bigger than just a group of songs. This is a band that rose from an Atlanta nightclub, redefined the sound of a decade, launched legendary producers, survived devastating loss, and still found a way to keep the groove alive.
Sounds of success. We're sending out an SOS.
Yeah, that story is a mouthful when you're talking about the SOS band. Man, those guys were hot. I don't care where you're from and what kind of music you like. At the time, those things were hot on the R&B and the mainstream charts. Check it out. Now, before I go, I'm going to do a little housekeeping. Right now, Mary Davis, is she still performing after all of that? Oh, let's check this out.
I can read like someone. Take some time to lie and smile.
Yeah, man, that was on the Cadillac Chronicles. Those guys are cool. I like what they do on that channel and stuff like that. But Mary is still doing her thing. Man, the lady's 81 years old, going on 82 this year and stuff like that. Some of the other guys, Ra'oof is still around. Some of the other guys we left us. These guys are getting older, and so are we, and nobody's going to be around forever. But what matters is the legacy that you leave behind. And these guys left a legacy behind, and I appreciate that, and I think you should too. And I appreciate you for coming to the channel, and I hope to see you next time when we do this again on the Music Mindset channel. Hey, I'm Mindset. Check you guys out later.